political cover-up, said the CEO.
The biggest newspaper story of the past couple of weeks has been, without doubt, the Sydney Morning Herald running this gross cartoon of a Jew over a viciously anti-Israel column by writer Mike Carlton, blaming Jews collectively of genocide. Now, when Jews wrote to complain, Carlton told several to F off and called one a typical Jewish bigot. Typical? I covered some of this on last week's show, but strangely, the ABC's Media Watch on Monday didn't say a word about this scandal, instead attacking Murdoch Papers yet again about something trivial. Joining me is Sharri Markson, media editor of The Australian. Sharri, please explain. Media Watch not touching this story. What gives?
Look, the media industry has attempted to recast this whole situation as being about Mike Carlton being sacked for an offensive column that the Israel lobby and that News Corp didn't agree with. Well, that is completely wrong. Carlton chose to resign after being suspended for, as you say, using anti-Semitic and abusive language to his readers. Language that included calling someone a Jewish bigot and making fun of people who had Jewish names. One of the readers he abused was the former Fairfax director. So this picture that they're trying to paint is totally incorrect. We've also had, apart from Media Watch not covering it, we had the former Treasurer, Wayne Swan, ringing up to express support to Carlton. Now, we know Wayne Swan oversaw a disastrous budget, leaving us with a future debt of up to $660 billion, despite the mining boom. But even this was poor judgment from him that was hard to stomach. You had a whole lot of quite senior Fairfax columnists coming out and expressing support for Carlton, saying it was a sad day to see him leave journalism. Well, I tell you what, I think it's a sad day when all these people accept that we should be living in a society where you are allowed to use anti-Semitic language towards readers. You're not. And even the Race Discrimination Commissioner was very weak in his language. And look, I think I've personally lost confidence in him. So,
absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, look, I agree with you completely about that Racial Discrimination Commissioner who wouldn't even condemn Mike Carlton. Have a listen.
Obviously, Fairfax decided to take some action against him. Look, I'm agnostic on this.
Now, explain why journalists, so many journalists and the Race Discrimination Commissioner are flocking to support Mike Carlton. Is this a question of being, if you're in the tent, you know, on the left, that you sort of are protected from the sort of scrutiny that you are subjected to if you're a Conservative?
Look, I think that's the case. I think that really none of them should be supporting someone who uses this sort of language towards readers. You know, many people said it was just a case of him swearing at readers. Look, if it was a case of swearing, you'd only have a few cadets remaining in the journalism industry. It wasn't that. It was really abusive and anti-Semitic language that is not acceptable in today's society. And it can't be recast by senior people in the media industry as anything. I know Media Watch has put in questions to various people about whether this was a campaign by the Israel lobby to get rid of Carlton. Well, that's
another Jewish conspiracy theory.
Ludicrous.
Honestly, the ABC should be ashamed.
They need to grow up.
Yep, absolutely.
They should, and they've been a party to it. Apart from an excellent interview by Richard Glover, the rest of the ABC has failed to provide any scrutiny of this. We cannot live in a society where people are able to call others Jewish bigots and make fun of their Jewish names. It is not acceptable.
Gaza, the war in Gaza's back on, Sharri, after the Hamas terrorists broke the 5th ceasefire too, firing more rockets into Israel. Now, here's the problem I have with journalists reporting from Gaza. The place is run by terrorists, and the locals that journalists interview may not be free to actually say what they really think. Now, shouldn't every report come with a disclaimer saying that?
Look, it's really tricky. I think that if a report was able to carry that sort of disclaimer, then you may as well, you know, carry the full report in the first place. We've got to bear in mind that it's a conflict zone and, you know, the journos are in very dangerous situations. However, we have seen, as you say, evidence over the past week where there's been a lot of reporters who are unable to reveal what's going on because of personal security issues posed to them from Hamas, a terrorist organisation. So we had one Indian television station.
Well,
that
before you
waited
get onto that, let me actually illustrate that,
Yeah?
Shari. That's exactly right. I mean,
let's have a look.
not only are they unable to, do they refuse to say that locals may be too terrified, I do wonder if they're too scared too. Only a few TV reporters have shown how Hamas, for example, is firing rockets at Israel from between people's houses so that Israel would kill civilians if it hit back. Hamas was firing even from right outside the hotel, as you say, of Indian reporters, and from next to a United Nations building, as well as from next to hospitals.
Sairaalan takapihalta tehtiin rakettiisku 2 aikaan yöllä. Se tosiaan...
Now, do enough embedded reporters in Gaza tell us really what Hamas is up to right under their noses?
They don't, and there's a couple of reasons for it. So that one clip that you showed in the middle there, an Indian television report, it did show a rocket being first assembled under a blue tent and then fired from the heart of a densely populated civilian area. Now, the crew waited for about 5 days when they were out of the Gaza area before broadcasting the report because they said they were concerned about their personal safety. We're seeing this time and time again. A Christian leader in Gaza has revealed that there were rockets fired from his church. But again, he has refused to elaborate for security concerns. Another freelancer, Christian Stevens, when he left the area to go to Iraq, he was able to speak about how, you know, the Palestinian authorities and militants are more than happy for reporters to cover the damage that is being done there, but not any what he called reprisal attacks or rocket launches.
Well,
so
I noticed that
that
Indian report, they were even so sensitive enough to blur the faces of the Hamas terrorists firing the rockets. I couldn't believe that. But listen, just before we go, Frances Abbott, the Prime Minister's daughter, is being slimed by newspapers. New Matilda claimed it had leaked documents suggesting she'd been given a $60,000 scholarship by a private college just as a favour. In fact, so those documents weren't leaked, they were allegedly hacked. And the privacy of up to 500 students breached by former college staff members now been charged. Now, I'm not saying that New Matilda knew that those documents were hacked, but I am saying that the silence from many in the media is hypocritical. True?
Totally hypocritical. They were jumping up in glee to report on the hacking scandal of News of the World in the UK, but have been completely silent on this issue. And you may not be saying that they knew about it, but I think there are some serious questions for Wendy Bacon, a journalism professor who did some of this reporting at New Matilda website. Did she teach the woman who has been arrested and charged over hacking? Did she ask her to hack the information? What involvement did she have? How close was their relationship? Did she know that this information that she reported on came from hacking?
Well, those are good questions, Shari. Look, I'm sorry, we've just run out of time. Those are good questions, and I'd be interested to know what the answers are. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Andrew.
Coming up, how